You walk past two colleagues whispering. One glances up, the other looks down. Your stomach drops. They're talking about me. 10 minutes later, you learn they're planning a surprise for a coworker. What happened in that gap? Your brain solved a problem fast and built a story. Welcome back to another episode of Positive Solutions for Life. I'm your host, Peggy Meyer. Your brain is a phenomenal problem-solving machine. Feed it a few puzzle pieces and boom, it fills in the rest. That's great when you're parallel parking or catching a falling glass. Not so great when you've only heard the beginning, the middle, or the tail end of a conversation, and your mind jumps to conclusions. In this episode today, you're going to learn what truth, facts, and stories really are, why our brains autocomplete reality, and why those completions are often wrong. But first, we need to understand what truth, facts, and stories are and how they're different. So, what are facts? Facts are things that are known or proved to be true. Specific observations that can be independently checked and verified by others. For example, the meeting started at 9:05 a.m. That's a fact. People can check it and verify it. What is a truth then? Truth is a broader, more coherent account that organizes facts into meaning or a belief that is accepted as true. Multiple truths can exist depending on goals and values. For example, one person's truth could be starting a meeting late shows that we don't respect time. Another person's truth could be we waited to start the meeting so everyone could be included. See the difference? There's multiple truths to the same fact. So, what's a story? A story is an account of events, the details surrounding an event that your brain creates or links together between a few facts in order to make sense of the information fast. Stories feel like truth because they fit our experiences and emotions. One person's story could be that people are rude and disrespectful when they show up late for a meeting because they're wasting other people's time. Another person's story could be each person is important. It's more disruptive to have to fill in a person who is a few minutes late than to start the meeting on time. See, the different stories, the truths and beliefs of a single person can be different depending on how they view it. So two people can hold different truths and neither one is lying. They're just anchoring on different facts, priorities, or interpretations. Problems arise when we forget that we're telling a story and we start acting like it's the only possible truth. So we need to remember to create space between facts and our interpretation of the facts. A good way to do that is to say, here are the facts. Here's my story about those facts. Let me say that again. We need to remember to create space between facts and our interpretation of the facts. So here are the facts, and here's my story about those facts. And we need to do this because our brain's default is to predict and protect. So our brain is this prediction engine, and it's there to keep us safe and alive, to survive. And our brain basically has two gears that it runs on, fast and slow. The slow gear is more deliberate, analytical, and it has a lot of effort that needs to be around it. It checks the work of the fast gear, but only if we ask it to. The fast gear is very fast. It's instantaneous, it's automatic, and it does a lot of pattern matching. It's really efficient, but it's also emotional and it can be incredibly useful at times because the brain uses past experiences, emotions, and tiny pieces of information to guess what's happening right now in this moment. So when you hear a snippet, just a little bit of something, a certain tone of voice, a phrase, or see a facial expression, the fast gear jumps in to keep you safe and efficient. It completes the picture using memory, mood, and expectation. Your mind isn't trying to trick you. It's trying to help you take action quickly. But this fast acting gear, as you can imagine, has some drawbacks, and it can often create the wrong picture. Why? Because it has limited data. We rarely have the full scene or all the information. It hasn't done the slow gear work of analyzing and trying to really see if we have all the information. And also heuristics, which are mental shortcuts. It This fast acting gear uses these mental shortcuts to make really quick decisions, but it can lead to bias and errors in judgment because it responds so quickly with only a limited amount of information from our past experiences and what's readily available. It doesn't have all the information, so it can jump to conclusions in the wrong way. But our brain also likes and needs closure. It likes to wrap things up in a little tiny bow. So uncertainty is very uncomfortable. So we prefer a finished story to an accurate one. So our brain quickly fills in the gaps of the story to create this final copy, this final, like, wrap it up in a bow gift, right? But the also our brain can make the wrong picture because our memory is reconstructive. We don't play back events, accurately. We rebuild them, and each time we go back to a memory, we rebuild it, and it can drift a little bit. It can vary from the original playback. So, do you remember the game telephone? This is a perfect example. One person says something and then tells the next person, and that person tells the next person until everybody has been told. The last person announces what was said, and the majority of the time, it's not the same as what was originally said, right? This is a prime example of how our memory is reconstructive. And research shows that we really only hear about 50% of what was said. So that makes sense that our brain has to fill in the gaps with other information and past experiences and our emotions to wrap it up in a pretty bow. So our need for speed in interpreting information quickly has allowed us to evolve, correct? Without the fast response of our brain to interpret danger, we would not be here. So it's a survival mechanism, but it also serves to conserve energy. The slow gear of detailed analysis of information is just exhausting. It takes so much brain power. Interpreting the fast gear allows us to predict other people's intentions so we can, get along with them, belong. We all want a sense of belonging and we want to get along with others. And this fast gear allows us to predict other people's intentions. But with that, it also gets us in trouble. And like I said before, we miss context. We miss information. We don't have all the details. So we misread, we misinterpret what we see and we hear. Like at the beginning, we misinterpret who the two people are talking about or what they're talking about. And we think it's us when it's not. And we infer a lot. We notice information, we add meaning, we make assumptions, we draw conclusions, and then act as if all these steps were facts. And they're not. Assumptions are not facts. We all do a lot of assuming, which can get us into trouble. Anybody? Oh, I assumed this and then you turned out wrong. And then my bad. And you know what else colors this? Gets us into trouble? Our emotions. Because our emotions color our perception. Have you ever noticed when you're angry, anxious, or exhausted? We have this lens that is darker, like our stories paint a darker, pessimistic story. Our emotions can change the color of the lens we see out of. It's not all rose colored, right? When we're in a good mood, we're more optimistic. We see things, we have hope, we have, dreams, we have all of this. And when we're just just angry, all we see is darkness. So our emotions can color our perceptions and how we fill in the gaps. We all need to remember that our brain's fast gear writes the first draft, but we need to use our brain's slow gear to edit. The goal isn't to shut off the fast gear. The goal is to invite our slow gear to check our story before we go public with it. So we need to remember we have two gears. Fast gear, quick, make those assumptions, make those, draw conclusions, get on with it. But it's not accurate. We have to pause and take a breath and allow our slow gear to go, okay, rewind. Like, is that actually true? So this week, I encourage you to take notice. Before you respond to a situation, get the facts. Determine your truth. Identify your feelings and how all of those impact the story you tell yourself and others. Remember, facts are verifiable observations, things other people can check. The truth is a coherent account of that organizes the facts and values into meaning. And different people can hold different truths while agreeing on the facts. And the story is your interpretation of the facts along with your truths. So I encourage you to draw this out on paper. Seeing it in front of you creates a bigger impact. To do this, take a piece of paper and draw 4 columns: facts, truth, feelings, story. Now, take a situation or a short conversation that you've had with somebody and write out the facts and put those under the facts column. And then write your truths about the facts under the truths column. Write your feelings, what you were feeling under the feelings column. And then write the story you told yourself about the conversation. And feel free to go back and use the example of the meeting I gave at the beginning of the podcast. The fact was that the meeting started at 9:05. And then go back and re-listen to what different types of truths there were and the story that was told. So this is a really good way to create space between facts and your interpretation of the facts. Remember, here are the facts, and here's my story about those facts. Then look at it. What do you notice about it? Remember, our brain is a prediction machine, but it also wants to protect us. The more aware you are when your brain is in prediction or protection mode, or making quick decisions when it should be slowing down to be more accurate, the better you are. So this is part 1. And next week, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this topic by addressing how gossip gets mistaken for the truth and other tools we can help to reduce miscommunication and misunderstandings. So until then, I encourage you, draw out facts, truth, feelings, story, and take a few situations this week and really use your slow gear to kind of analyze what happened and see if you can figure out if there's some other truths or other ways you could have responded to those facts. Have a great week.